Life of the Grey Lady. When I lived, I was Helena Ravenclaw. These words, from the woman known by most as the Grey Lady, brought a new dimension to not only this previously silent ghost, but to one of the founders of the legendary Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. When I first discovered that the ghost of Ravenclaw House was none other than Helena Ravenclaw, I found myself fascinated by her and wondered what the relationship with her mother Rowena would have been like. Come along with me as I take a trip into the life, death, and afterlife of the Grey Lady. Helena Ravenclaw was born in 10th century Britain to Rowena and an unnamed wizard father, presumably of pure blood. It is unknown which part of the British Isles she grew up in, but the Hogwarts sorting hat referenced her mother as Fair Ravenclaw from Glen, which would indicate Scottish roots. From what is known of Rowena Ravenclaw, the woman was said to be fairly stern, strict, and intimidating. As a child, it may have been difficult for young Helena to connect with her mother emotionally. This could have had a lifelong effect on the relationship. At the age of 11, Helena became one of the first generations of students at Hogwarts and trained there until the age of 17. She was sorted into Ravenclaw, the house of her mother. Although Helena never spoke of her school days in any of the Harry Potter books, it is likely that her early years were difficult. With a mother so well respected, wise, and powerful, the pressure to live up to her family name must have been unbearable at times. Helena admits this herself when talking with Harry in the Deathly Hallows. I stole the diadem. I sought to make myself cleverer, more important than my mother. Sadly, her words reveal a deeply insecure and jealous young woman, unable to be satisfied with who she was. It might have appeared to others that Helena thought very highly of herself. She is described as haughty and proud by Harry in the Deathly Hallows. However, it's clear by her actions that she thought quite the opposite, wishing to be like her mother and even to surpass her. Due to the time in history at which Hogwarts was founded, it is highly likely that the Ravenclaw family were of noble or high-born ancestry, since social mobility was almost unheard of and only the wealthiest of people would have been able to found a school. Helena's privilege could have fueled her self-importance and pride and played a hand in her eventual downfall. Envious of her mother's intelligence and importance, young Helena stole her mother's magical diadem in the hopes of surpassing her in wisdom. Helena ran away from Scotland. Nothing is known of what she did during this time, but it is assumed that she sought to make a name for herself. In later years, a dying Rowena requested a young Slytherin baron to find Helena so that she could see her daughter one last time and forgive her past mistake. The baron, whom had been in love with Helena for years, managed to track her to the forest of Albania, where she had hidden the diadem in a hollow tree. The love-lorn baron pleaded for Helena to return to her mother, but the proud young woman refused both the request and his romantic advances. Furious at her refusal, the baron flew into a rage and stabbed her to death with a knife before doing the same to himself in remorse. Helena and the baron returned from the dead as ghosts and became known as the Grey Lady of Ravenclaw House and the Bloody Baron of Slytherin. But why did they return? It is stated that wizards can only return as ghostly imprints of themselves when they believe they have unfinished business in the land of the living. Gryffindor ghost Nearly Headless Nick described himself as cowardly for remaining in our world. It appears that Helena felt tied to Hogwarts and perhaps the memory of her mother. It is quite possible that Helena felt remorse upon her sudden departure and wanted to serve her mother's memory by staying on as the resident ghost of her house and, ironically, providing wisdom to the thousands of Ravenclaw students that would pass through the hallowed halls of Rowena's school. Unfortunately, the same vanity that brought about Helena's death would be the vice that helped bring about the rise of the most powerful dark wizard of all time. The story of the Grey Lady is fascinating and heartbreaking. Helena was a woman driven by insecurity and the longing for a personal identity. Even though she's a fictional witch, her struggles are familiar to us. We all long for purpose, admiration, and love. We may even desire to be wise and clever, but just like Helena, we can become consumed by these things. All things considered, Helena's life was a lonely one, her standards so high that she never found love, and she was willing to leave any friends she had behind in pursuit of importance. She could not see the value of what she already had, and in the end, she lost everything to an afterlife of regret. If there's one thing we can take from her story, it is this. Books and cleverness are all well and good, but there are more important things, friendship and bravery. A wise man once said these words, "Look, I have attained greatness and have gained more wisdom than all who were before me in Jerusalem. My heart has understood great wisdom and knowledge, and I set my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceived that this also is grasping for the wind. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow."